External factors like protests, pandemics, or revolutions can sometimes disrupt a brand's presence, causing it to vanish from a country entirely. Dunkin' Donuts made its debut in India in 2012 with high hopes, eventually launching 77 locations across the country. However, the excitement didn't last. By mid-2018, the company announced it would close nearly half its Indian stores, keeping only 37 open with a revised focus on its core categories and a stronger emphasis on tea offerings. The main issue? Cultural habits. While donuts and coffee are staples of Western breakfast routines, that meal doesn't hold the same importance in India. As Business Today pointed out, breakfast isn't a significant daily ritual for most Indians, which made Dunkin's core menu a tough sell. As of now, Dunkin' continues to operate in India, but its footprint has shrunk considerably. According to its local website, the number of outlets has dwindled to just 25. South Africa's warm climate might seem like the perfect match for a brand like Baskin-Robbins, but the reality didn't quite scoop out as expected. The American ice cream chain entered the South African market in 2016, hoping to win over customers with its colorful branding and famously extensive flavor selection. However, just 3 years later, it pulled out entirely, citing underwhelming sales. According to Niche Market, one major issue was Baskin-Robbins' overwhelming variety. While 31 flavors sounds fun in theory and has now expanded to nearly 40, it clashed with local consumer preferences. South African shoppers tend to favor simplicity, and the abundance of choices may have been more confusing than enticing. On top of that, ice cream doesn't have the shelf life of pantry staples. Unsold product quickly becomes waste. Economic conditions didn't help either. A sluggish economy and reduced discretionary spending made premium-priced ice cream a tough sell, ultimately leading to the brand's quiet exit. Cultural preferences can make or break the global ambitions of American fast food chains. While some countries eagerly welcome foreign flavors, others simply don't find room for them in daily life. In Japan, many U.S. brands have found a comfortable niche. McDonald's, Starbucks, and Wendy's are popular and widely accepted. So when Subway entered the Japanese market, it likely seemed like a safe bet. At one point, Subway had nearly 500 restaurants across Japan. Today, fewer than 200 remain. What happened? According to Unseen Japan, the core issue is straightforward. Sandwiches just don't have the same cultural pull in Japan. Though there's a mild tradition of sandwiches, like the beloved katsu sando, it wasn't enough to support Subway's ambitions. Instead of tailoring offerings to local tastes, the brand pushed a model that relied on building a sandwich culture from scratch, which proved far more difficult than expected. Beyond the menu mismatch, the execution didn't help. Stores were reportedly uninviting, and the ordering process was confusing for customers unfamiliar with Subway's build-your-own format. In a market that values clarity, visual appeal, and strong culinary tradition, Subway's attempt fell flat, quite literally sandwiched out of relevance.
My name is Subway. Not anymore. The bread is stale. No!
Oh my God.
No!
It might sound bold, maybe even a little absurd, but Domino's once tried to sell American-style pizza to Italians, the very people who invented it. The chain opened its first Italian location in 2015, aiming to carve out a niche in the birthplace of pizza. But by 2022, the experiment had ended in failure, with all locations shuttered. While the COVID-19 pandemic certainly played a role in Domino's exit, reports suggest the deeper issue was cultural resistance. Simply put, Italians weren't buying what Domino's was serving. Social media reactions were blunt. Why settle for mass-produced American-style pizza when local, handcrafted options were everywhere? At its peak, Domino's had just 29 restaurants in Italy, a stark contrast to its 1,200-plus locations in the UK. The company hoped features like online ordering and pineapple as a topping would set it apart. But when lockdowns forced traditional pizzerias to embrace delivery too, Domino's lost its edge. In the land of Neapolitan pizza, Domino's couldn't rise to the occasion. Chick-fil-A, while wildly popular in the US, has long been one of the country's most polarizing fast food chains. The controversy began in 2011 when reports surfaced that the company had donated over $1 million to organizations opposing LGBTQ+ rights. Though many Americans continued to support the brand, the backlash sparked lasting reputational damage, one that followed Chick-fil-A far beyond US borders. In 2019, Chick-fil-A attempted to expand into the United Kingdom, opening a location inside the Oracle Shopping Center in Reading. It lasted just 6 months. Though the center claimed it simply chose not to renew the lease, public pressure told a different story. Protests erupted almost immediately, and the restaurant became a lightning rod for criticism. A similar attempt in Scotland met an even faster demise. The new location closed within 3 months after vocal opposition, including a petition with over 1,000 signatures. According to The Advocate, the backlash extended beyond the restaurant itself. Activists targeted the entire hotel group that housed the Chick-fil-A, urging boycotts of all its properties, including high-end venues frequented by public figures. Faced with growing public scrutiny and pressure on its broader business interests, hotel management cut ties with Chick-fil-A. The message was clear. In the UK, the chain's controversial past overshadowed its chicken sandwiches, and the expansion plans came to an abrupt end. McDonald's may be the ultimate symbol of American fast food, with more than 13,000 locations across the US and nearly $9 billion in annual domestic revenue. But the chain's true financial power comes from abroad. International markets contribute the majority of its yearly $23 billion haul. However, global success isn't always guaranteed. One country where the golden arches didn't stick? Bolivia. After opening in the late 1990s, McDonald's pulled out entirely by 2002. It simply wasn't profitable. But the financial failure had deeper roots. According to CNBC, Bolivia's widespread poverty at the time made fast food a luxury few could afford. Add to that a strong national identity tied to traditional cuisine and a general skepticism toward foreign corporations. And McDonald's had an uphill battle from the start. Many Bolivians saw the food as overpriced and out of touch with their culture. In a nation where local flavors are beloved and street food is abundant and affordable, mass-produced burgers didn't appeal to the masses. McDonald's departure wasn't just about dollars. It was a cultural mismatch that money couldn't fix. While some countries embrace American culture, others reject it entirely. This is one reason why you'll never find chains like McDonald's or KFC in nations like Iran and North Korea, which have historically been at odds with the United States. However, you might be surprised to learn that American fast food once had a foothold in Iran. Back in the 1970s, both McDonald's and KFC operated in Tehran, the capital city. That all changed in 1979 when the Iranian Revolution toppled the Shah's government and brought the Islamic clerics, led by Ayatollah Khomeini, to power. With the new regime in place, there was no room for symbols of American influence, especially fast food chains. As a result, both McDonald's and KFC shut down, and Iran has been free of Western-style fast food ever since. However, not everyone mourned the loss of these American brands. Today, Iran has its own versions of fast food chains, including knockoffs like Sheikh Shack, Pizza Hut, and a locally branded halal KFC. The latter, despite not being affiliated with KFC, was shut down shortly after opening due to its logo, which closely resembled the iconic image of Colonel Sanders. Authorities quickly took action, mistaking the resemblance as an infringement on the KFC brand.
Hey, that's not the real Colonel Sanders. I'm the real Colonel Sanders.
Dunkin may still have a foothold in parts of the world, but Iceland isn't one of them. The coffee and donut giant pulled out of the Icelandic market in 2019. According to Fréttablaðið, the company managing Dunkin's operations in the country cited high operational costs as the main reason for the exit, noting that price hikes to offset expenses simply weren't viable. But the story seems to go deeper than just economics. When Dunkin first arrived in Reykjavik in 2015, public reaction was lukewarm at best. While some locals, particularly younger customers, welcomed the arrival of American-style donuts and coffee, others were less impressed. One prominent critic, Icelandic musician Krummi Björgvinsson, shared a now notorious photo of himself giving a thumbs down in front of the shop, calling it a conglomerate and referencing an uprising. As he later told Reykjavik Grapevine, many felt that Iceland should offer something more authentic to visitors, rather than another symbol of global fast food culture.
Love Dunkin', guy. What are you talking about?
If you're part of the coffee-loving majority in the US, your day probably doesn't start without that familiar caffeine kick, often from a pricey chain like Starbucks. But while a $5 latte may be a daily habit for millions of Americans, other cultures don't necessarily see coffee the same way. Take Israel, for example, where Starbucks tried and failed to establish a foothold. The company entered the market in 2001 with high hopes, but by 2003 it had quietly exited, closing all its locations. Starbucks thought Tel Aviv, a bustling, trendy city known for its food scene, was the ideal place to start. Hoping to sidestep political instability, they avoided cities like Jerusalem and targeted more cosmopolitan hubs. But what worked in American suburbs didn't translate well in a city already saturated with beloved local cafes. Unlike in the US, where the chain often pushes out smaller competitors, Tel Aviv's coffee culture proved resilient, and the culture clash ran deeper. Israeli coffee drinkers tend to enjoy their brew sitting down, savoring the experience. Starbucks' quick-serve, grab-and-go model didn't resonate. On top of that, locals just didn't care much for the taste of Starbucks coffee, a deal breaker no amount of branding could fix.
It's
really bad coffee.
While McDonald's and Burger King have planted their flags all over Europe, one major American fast food chain remains noticeably absent: Wendy's. You'll find the square patty specialist across the US and in other global markets, but not on mainland European soil. Wendy's did try once. It entered Europe in the late 1970s, starting with a location in Munich, West Germany. But by the 1980s, all its European outlets had quietly closed. The exact reasons remain unclear, lost in the fog of fast food history. What's more curious is why Wendy's never came back. It turns out the issue isn't demand, it's legal. After Wendy's exited Europe, a small fish and chip shop swooped in and trademarked the name Wendy's on the continent. That local business has been the legal roadblock preventing the American chain from making a return. Wendy's has challenged the trademark in court, but so far the rulings have gone in favor of the European namesake. Interestingly, thanks to Brexit, Wendy's has found a loophole, re-entering the UK market, which is no longer bound by EU trademark restrictions. There's room in the food world for just about anything wrapped in a tortilla, but that doesn't automatically make it Mexican. Taco Bell learned this the hard way when it first ventured into Mexico in 1992, launching a food cart in Mexico City. Despite its dominance in the US, the chain was met with skepticism and ultimately failed to win over local diners. To be fair, Taco Bell made some effort to localize its offerings. Instead of its usual hard-shell tacos and ground beef, the brand offered shredded meat, soft corn tortillas, and sauces made with regional ingredients. But even with those adjustments, success never materialized. According to Mental Floss, the problem wasn't just the food, it was the concept. Many Mexicans saw Taco Bell's arrival as presumptuous, even insulting. Why eat a fast food version of something that's already done better and cheaper on every street corner? Authentic tacos were not only tastier, but also more affordable. Still, Taco Bell tried again in the 2000s, this time leaning into its American identity. Ads openly stated the chain wasn't pretending to serve Mexican food, but that attempt also fell flat. Within 3 years, Taco Bell closed up shop again, unable to sell tacos in the very country that invented them.